All right, everybody, welcome to Global Education. It's our Global Virtual Expo week this week, and we've got a really interesting university here for you. It's Radboud in the Netherlands, and we've got two South African students with us that are going to be showcasing their experience and what they're currently going through at the university directly. It's a little bit different to what we normally present here at Global, but I'm sure that you'll all find this very entertaining and very interesting as well. So what we'll do is we'll give it 5 more minutes for people to sign on. We've got about 15 attendees on so far, which is great for the 7:30 time. So please just give us a couple more minutes and then we'll introduce Nicholas and Jason to you. Just a bit of housekeeping for everybody. Any questions or in the Q&A section, please just put them through there or even in the chat box, and I'll be answering them as the presentation goes on. And then we'll speak in some of those questions directly to Nicholas and Jason, who can give you their firsthand experience about Radboud as well. And as always, any questions about studying abroad, please send them my way. And please reach out to Global Education and visit the website. There's heaps of information on there, which will cover all your needs as well. All right, Jason and Nick, we've just hit 20 people on here. So what we'll do is we'll get started. If you want to introduce yourselves and let's go from there. Welcome to Global Education, everybody. This is Radboud and here's Jason and Nicholas.
Jason, you want to take it first?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason. I am indeed from South Africa, and I've moved to the Netherlands to study my research master's in philosophy, specifically in history of philosophy. And I'm now closing up my degree. I've been here for a year and a half. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I think I just got muted there, but so my name's Nicholas. I studied my undergrad in econometrics at Tux in Pretoria. And then I moved over in 2018 to Nijmegen, where I did my pre-masters in economics, which was like a bridge, basically a bridge, because I never did my honors back home. And then now I'm currently doing my masters in economics in Nijmegen at Radboud. Yeah, cool. Should I share my screen now? Oh, okay, cool. So we'll just hop right into it then. I think how it's going to work is Jason will just go first, and then I'll just go second on the different sides, and we'll hop straight into it. So that was just a bit of a background about the two of us.
Right. I'm wanting to specifically study postgraduate at Radboud. On the page about us, you may have noticed it said for me master's students. Something I didn't know when I moved here, and that would be good for you to know, is that in the Netherlands, unlike most countries, there's a distinction between a research master's program and a master's program. And the difference between the two is that a research master's program is a lot more intensive and is intended for people who are aiming to do PhD studies after that. And that's a program of 2 years, and the master's program is 1 year. So that would be good for you to know when you're looking at applications. Okay, so why study abroad in the Netherlands? I think what makes the Netherlands particularly attractive to study at is that, unlike most European universities, the Netherlands has, in almost all its faculties, English programs. So you have the advantage of being able to move to a foreign country and study, but still be able to study in English. And of course, I think almost all of the universities in the Netherlands are in the top 100 ranked universities in the world, Radboud being particularly highly ranked as well. And why I mention how good all of the Dutch universities are, not just Radboud, is that Radboud always has a lot of relationships with other Dutch universities, which means that you get to attend a lot of conferences and you are able to take courses at different universities while being at Radboud. So there's quite a network for you to access. The reason I first can tell you why I chose Radboud, I first came to Radboud because I met a philosophy professor at Turks in Pretoria where I studied, who invited me to come. And then I did my own research and decided I particularly wanted to study here because the range of expertise in the faculties at Radboud is very impressive, specifically, at least from my experience studying philosophy. In Pretoria in South Africa, we just had the philosophy department, whereas at Radboud, we have 7 different philosophy departments within one faculty. What that means is that every course, for instance, that you get is presented to you by an expert in that particular field. So I think that's particularly what makes Radboud great, and it's in Nijmegen, which is a great little town. It's small enough that you can cycle everywhere, but big enough that there are adventures to be had on your bicycle still. Yeah. Nick?
Yeah, sure. I can hand over there. I don't know if you want to fix your internet though, but or if it's me, but you're quite sounding a little bit robotic there. If I don't know. Anyway, mine's a lot more simplistic. Why I picked the Netherlands. My dad was from the Netherlands, so for me it was when I wanted to carry on pursuing my studies, it was kind of a no-brainer to like pick a European country based on the fees, because it's a lot more affordable being an EU, having an EU passport to study overseas than it would have been otherwise. So when I was looking at studying further, that just became very clear and really easy for me. And yeah, when I was Googling different universities to study at, Radboud was one of the first to pop up, and I just was very, very interested. And yeah, that's for me. And then I don't think we mentioned at the beginning, if there's just any questions, you can just pop them in the chat. But yeah, cool. So Jace, do you want to go teaching styles?
Right. Okay, yeah, sure. In terms of the differences, I mean, I suppose it's somewhat difficult to compare the styles in which you'll be taught between 2 entire countries. So at most, I can tell you about the differences between, for instance, the University of Pretoria and Radboud University. Maybe you can find links to whatever universities you're currently at. Oh, my audio is apparently bad. I apologize. Nick, could you speak for a second while I fix it? Sorry.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, so teaching styles was different in terms of our home country was, from my experience, it was a bit of a like adjustment, because it was, I don't know, it's like it kind of a very hands-on approach, if that makes any sense. Contact with teachers and stuff was like seamlessly easy, which for me was like really, really nice coming from South Africa. So everything was straightforward. I knew exactly what I was getting into. Very, very easy to adapt to. I don't think that would be a problem for anyone. And yeah, especially if you're pursuing degrees in higher education, I mean, everyone kind of should know what it's like then. But yeah, I don't know if Jason had any other inputs there. I couldn't really hear him, but let's just hop on to the next then. Okay, so contacts with classmates and the Dutch. There, I remember when I first got to the Netherlands, there was this one course that was learning how to put up with the Dutch, or learning how to integrate with the Dutch rather. And it's obviously it's different cultures and different norms that you would expect, but I mean, I didn't struggle too much at all. They're generally very, very friendly people, and I thoroughly enjoyed all my time. Made some friends that I would keep for a lifetime. And my tips and tricks would be to attend all of the student meetings and all of the orientations that is possible. Because I mean, think about it, you're going to a new country, you want to meet as many new people as possible, and Radboud is very good with what they have set up, in my opinion, of like letting everyone integrate through all of the different outings and whatnot that they have organized. So 100% would recommend going to all of those. Like orientation week, I would not skip all of that stuff, because that is truly just how you meet more people, and that's how you just broaden your spheres and your circles. Jace, did you manage to fix your thing?
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, that's much better.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, let me just see my screen. All right, contact with classmates and the Dutch. It's a odd turn of phrase, making contact. It sounds like we are anthropologists heading to a foreign land and we need to make contact with the locals. Anyway, in terms of what tips and tricks I might tell you about for getting to know Dutch people, I think it's very important to take advantage of all the social events that the university organizes, which are usually faculty specific. And what I really like about Radboud is that they do organize a lot of social activities.
I think I've just mentioned exactly that. Should we just hop on to the next one, maybe?
Okay, sure. All right.
Yeah, you can head this one, go.
Okay, sure. Okay, Dutch language. Everyone in the Netherlands, well, I would say everyone, a large amount of people you'll come into contact with in the Netherlands are near to fluent in English. However, I think it is important to learn the language of the country you're living. And Radboud is quite helpful in that respect, in the sense that you can take a beginner's course in Dutch for free. And they provide courses for you that you'll have to pay for, but you get student discounts thereon if you want to carry on learning Dutch. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you understand Afrikaans or speak Afrikaans to a certain extent. And I'm sure you know that Afrikaans comes from Dutch to a certain extent. And that makes learning Dutch a lot easier.
Especially understanding it, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. I'm very English, but you know, I did Afrikaans at school like everyone else. And I have found it quite easy. To read is very easy if you're decent enough at Afrikaans. Sometimes understanding people when they speak very quickly can be tricky. So that's going to take some practice. But in terms of everyday life, you'll very easily be able to make friends and discourse very easily with them, Dutch people, in English. If you're at the supermarkets, everyone will speak English there. It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Just going on what you said there, Jason, I was thoroughly really impressed when I first got to the Netherlands, because not only could a lot of the people speak English as well as Dutch, but they can even speak like third and fourth languages. So I think that like learning the different languages is almost like one of their like cultures there. It's like I found it really weird, because like I was like, obviously in the beginning when I moved over, I'm like, let me try learn Dutch as quickly as I could and stuff, but you almost don't have to, really. It's like everywhere you go, almost everyone speaks English. So yeah,
exactly. Although I will add that I was slightly disappointed when I came here and found out that everyone learns English, because you sort of want to learn. If you're like me and you like learning other languages, you learn languages a lot quicker when you sort of immersed in having to speak to people constantly. And then sometimes Dutch people will be, you know, they're being kind to you and they'll hear your broken Dutch and immediately speak to you in English. Yeah. You can be that annoying person and insist on speaking Dutch badly. Yeah.
Okay, so orientation week, I was just, Jason and myself both actually didn't end up going to orientation week, because I don't know about why Jason didn't go, but personally, I signed up for the university really late. I think I was just before the final deadline, because at that point when I'd finished my university back home in South Africa, I wasn't too sure where I was headed or if I even wanted to study further. But so I pushed it off and procrastinated, as students would usually do. And I left it till the very last dates, which was to my own detriment, because then I missed all of these orientation weeks and all of those things that had been pre-organized way before that. So, but from what I have heard and from the different international students that I've spoken to along the path, I would 100% recommend going to orientation week. Yeah, some of the games and stuff may be pretty cringe, but it was really good fun from what I saw and heard. And yeah, it's just like I said earlier, meeting new people, you know. I mean, you're in a new country, it's a very big change to your life. So yeah, and then I'll just hop on to the next one. The study association. I joined the ESV, which is like an economics study association, and they organized so many like really good events, like pub crawls and like all of that really fun stuff that was all sponsored and whatnot. So I would really recommend that. And it was also just what we were speaking about earlier. There are a lot of reasons to join, even beyond drinking or meeting new people. There's like discounts on like books and all of that stuff. So yeah, there was a multitude of upsides to doing that. And I don't think Jason joined any. So
No, I haven't.
yeah. Okay, cool. And then just hop on to the next one.
Cool.
So what do you do in your spare time? Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. What to do in your spare time? I suppose that's quite person specific, but I will say what I very enjoy about the Netherlands in general is that there are a lot of what would one say, cultural activities going on. There's a lot of live music events to go to. Quite often there will be sort of artistic events going on, sort of gallery, special exhibitions and such. There are, of course, a lot of museums, which I enjoy going to museums. So there are not only sort of constant events that happen. For instance, a few places in Nijmegen host jazz events quite often. But beyond that, there are also a lot of music festivals that happen in Nijmegen as well. What's nice about the Netherlands, as I'm sure you know, is it's a very small country, which means that when you're thinking about what to do in your spare time, it's not restricted to Nijmegen. You can pop on a train and go anywhere else. Yeah. So there's a lot of music, a lot of art, and that's at least what I enjoy doing in my spare time. Yeah.
So just talking about festivals and stuff, one of the things just popped into my head now. So in the Netherlands, in terms of like really big party festivals, I don't know if anyone would be into that, but there's two come to mind. Is the first would obviously be King's Day, which is like one of the biggest like party celebrations in the whole country. Like everything is almost shut down and everyone just goes out to the street to go drink and have like really fun partying and stuff. And then the second one, coincidentally, is something in Nijmegen called the Vierdaagse. I'm sure Jason has experienced that. And my first time when I was there and I saw the Vierdaagse, I could not believe it. It was literally like ultra music festival. We're just walking in the streets. It was like absolutely crazy. There were stages set up all over the place. I really couldn't believe it. It was like, so that really blew my mind in terms of like the parties and all of those different stuff. But even if you just want to go meet your mates for a beer or any of those things like social activities to go catch up, there's this really nice street like in the city center where there's just lots of bars and restaurants and all of that stuff. So that's really easy and almost very simplistic to do. But yeah, I was quite blown away by the festivities this side.
Yeah. Okay, I can speak about this. I have been part of the Radboud Sports Center since I arrived at Radboud. So what's great about the Radboud Sports Center is it has a gym which is quite cheap for students. You get quite a hefty discount as a student of Radboud. You can pay a year fee, and then it's, I believe it was 160 euros for the whole year, which is quite good. But beyond just the gym, if you're not into just picking heavy things up and putting them down again, there are a lot of sports on offer. So if you join as a Radboud Sports Center member, you have access to absolutely everything that happens at the sports center. There are around 80 sports that you can be a part of there. Everything from basketball to different dance classes, martial arts, even weightlifting, water polo, volleyball, a lot of hockey, football. There's really any crazy, sport, any sport you could be into, they have, even fencing, I believe. So it's really good in the sense that you pay 1 year fee, very hefty discounts, and you have access to everything.
And it's so worth it. I think it works out to like maybe 10 euros a month, if I'm not mistaken, which is way cheaper than any other gym would be.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, so I would definitely advise joining the gym. And yeah, can move on.
Okay,
Cool.
so favorite spots. I'll just take this one. Mine would probably
Yeah.
be that from that other slide that was there was the EOS building, because generally that's where I have most of my classes. It's really like state of the art, really nice lecture venues, and yeah, I don't really have very many hangout spots, but in terms of like study spots and where I would go to go do my work, that's generally my go-to.
Good hangout spots, so to speak, at the university. Right outside one of the main buildings, which happens to be the tallest building in Nijmegen. It's called the Erasmus building. There, within that building, firstly, there's a cafeteria, which is quite great. There are about 6 or 7 different food counters that you can get food from. Lots of space to sit, and then just next to that building is a pub called the Coltir Cafe. That's really nice. And at the top of the Erasmus building, there's a sort of sky lounge. So on the very top floor, it's glass all around, and you can look out on the whole of Nijmegen, and that's pretty cool.
I've actually never been there, but I've heard
really?
about that. Yeah.
That's great. And right next to the Erasmus building, there's a sort of small forest that you can wander around in if you're a little claustrophobic indoors between classes. So yeah, study spots. The library has lots of space for that, and some faculties have study areas for their students specifically. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I'll take this one first, I guess. Then I think we both have the exact same idea, because we did almost speak about this. But living in Nijmegen and finding accommodation, if you are like really head set on coming to the Netherlands and coming to Nijmegen, I would strongly recommend to getting accommodation like almost ASAP, because it's like Feb now already. There's such a like shortage of accommodation that you're like it's really hard to try to describe till you're actually in the whole process of trying to find accommodation. But that being said, the university does really help a lot. So I would really recommend using the university to your aid. And the one which would come to mind would be the SSHN student housing, because they offer priority to international students, which without that, I really don't know if we'd be able to find accommodation at all, kind of thing. So them doing that, and yeah, that would just be my tips and tricks, would just be get on top of that as soon as you can, because they have like a waiting list of I think I know of some of my mates and stuff that have been on the waiting list for about 5 years to get accommodation, and then they're Dutch, and then they all kind of got really mad with me when I went, and I like got accommodation almost straight away, because the SSHN does set aside a certain amount of room for international students, because they don't want you to be homeless there, you know what I mean? So but yeah, but you do still have to register, and it is like a waiting list. So yeah.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I would say, Nick agrees with me. Don't try and find private accommodation when you arrive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Near to impossible. Take advantage of the privilege you have as an international student, and then you can do what I did. If you learn to communicate with the locals, as one slide oddly put it. What I mean is you can make friends with people here, and then in your second year you have time to find other accommodation if you would like to prefer to live in a house with friends.
That has its own drawbacks as well. You have to do these things called kijkavonds, which is you basically go around, and it's all the people living in the house have to like interview you and ask you different questions and stuff, and if they like you, then you go into like separate rounds. It's really brutal, and it is quite hard. But yeah, enough on that. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Okay. City, what to do in the city. All right. I particularly enjoy going down to there's a river called the Vaal here in Nijmegen, and the river is sort of lined with beaches, and during summer everyone sort of gathers on the beaches, and that's very great. Also in winter it's just nice to walk along it. I mentioned earlier that there are a couple music places in town. There's a really cool place called Good Vibrations. That's a very odd sort of vibe that is got lots of blues bands and reggae and jazz and such. It's an interesting place. And what I like about the Netherlands generally, and Nijmegen has a couple of these places, they have film houses that show art films constantly. You can go there. And what's great about Nijmegen is I don't think I've been to a city in Europe so far that has quite so many forests and parks around it. So that's really great. It's nice to wander in the forests. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So culture, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. I suppose what's the cliched phrase? Culture shock. I can't say that I experienced any kind of culture shock coming here. Although, I mean, coming from South Africa, I wouldn't say in a very general sense that the culture is that dramatically different. I will say this, I found it very weird, and this is the only culture shock one might have. I found it very weird just how many, coming from South Africa, how open the university space was. I'm used to coming from, for instance, Pretoria, that has fences around the whole university that you have to scan your fingerprints to get onto campus, and it's very much divided from the city. So what I enjoy about the city of Nijmegen being a sort of university town and having that kind of culture is that there's no boundary between the university and the city, and everyone's just sort of flowing freely across. I believe the Dutch have a reputation for being rather straightforward and rude. I can't say that I experience it that way. I quite like their straightforwardness. I find it quite pleasant. Some people might be thrown off by it. For instance, I know in South Africa, it's just sort of a habit of, doesn't matter who you're talking to, if you're only going to ask them one question, you always go, for instance, hi, how are you? And the other person goes, follow the sort of robotic response, fine, thank you. And then you have your conversation. But when I arrived here, Dutch people don't do that. You just have your conversation, and you might get here and go, hi, how are you? And they'll just stare at you and not answer and wait for you to actually say something. So that's about the most culture shock thing I can tell you about.
For me, yeah. I don't know if you experienced this as well, but for me, the biggest culture shock was probably the whole like mentality they have towards what's the best way to describe this? Like, you get one, I get one. If we're like going out or anything, they are like they have this thing called a tikkie. And if if I go out with like mates and everything, it was never ever like I'll get a round of drinks and we'll go home or whatever. Like, I would wake up the next morning and I would have been sent like a tikkie, which is like even like euro amounts of, like, I've seen people send tikkies of like 50 cents kind of thing to each other, which is they like really want to pay their own way, which is like really cool. But it was like super weird, and like I don't know, it was quite refreshing. But I found that also, that was probably the biggest culture shock for me. And then just about the eating, the Dutch food is actually really good in my opinion. And I got really addicted really quick to these things called frikandel broodje or broodje frikandel. And they basically, it's like a sausage roll with like curry sauce inside, and then it was really delicious. And that's my personal.
I think a couple more things I could add is that the Dutch are very keen and intense when it comes to bureaucracy. There's a form to fill out, and you're constantly receiving post from the municipality about some odd thing or another. And
the post system actually works, which is
I was about to mention that thing. That's something that's odd to people coming from South Africa. For instance, you can order something in the post today and it'll arrive the next morning.
Anyway, I think let's speed it up a little. I think we're close there anyway. So I'll let you handle this one because I actually didn't need a visa, but
Okay, in terms of the visa application process, that is very easy for the sole reason that the international office at Radboud basically handles everything for you. All you have to do is follow a link that they send you that just asks you to upload precise documents, and that's pretty much all you do, and they handle all the visa application issues that would usually be quite tricky if you were just going outside of the university. I mean, you still have to go to the embassy in South Africa or Zimbabwe or wherever you're from and hand in sometimes physical copies, but I would say 95% of everything is handled online and through the international office rather than directly with the embassy. So I found it to be very easy. No issues there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll head this one off first. Traveling in Europe, like Must do, 100% a must do. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's surely why you would go overseas. Like, or be was one of the main reasons for me. It was the ease, like the easiness of being able to travel. So I went with mates to like Budapest. We went to Italy, France, all over the place. So I traveled as much as I could in my first year because I did my pre-masters year, and it was so easy to get around. All the public transport is really, 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 really well organized. And yeah, you have the occasional train that's delayed, but other than that, it's very easy and really affordable as well. Like you can get flights from the Netherlands to and from Budapest with like Ryanair for maybe like 40 euros, which is like at the moment about 800 Rand, which is not bad at all. I mean, I don't think you can even fly from Joburg to Cape Town for that. But yeah, that's just my take on it all.
What I can say is, again, as I mentioned earlier, what's great about the Netherlands being so small is that when you come to move, if you come to study at Radboud, you live in Nijmegen, but everything is connected by trains, and you can just hop on trains whenever you feel like it to visit Amsterdam, for instance.
Yeah, I think the train to Amsterdam is about an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yeah, an hour and a half, 40 minutes.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah, but I mean, for instance, and what was I going to say? Yes, Europe is a very small place. So, for instance, to go to Paris from Nijmegen takes 4 hours by train. That's it. It's about 2 hours to Antwerp as well in Belgium. And of course, the Netherlands is on the border with Germany. So some of the nearest big cities there are, for instance, Cologne or Düsseldorf.
And there's also quite a few trips organized by the university that are also really cheap and affordable. Like they have these skiing trips in January and stuff that I would highly recommend. And
yeah. Oh, I should mention as well, there's something in Europe called Flixbus. They're buses that go between all the cities that are incredibly cheap. And if you come to Radboud as well, there's something in Europe called the Erasmus program, where you can go for a semester to another European university. And you can get funding for that, which is really great. During summer, there's also something called summer schools, where you can go to another university to do a short course for maybe a month, and the university will give you money to do that as well. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, now we're one slide ahead. So traveling in the Netherlands, this is if you were to come to Nijmegen and you were to pick Radboud University, this is the Nijmegen Central. So this is the train stop, and then all the buses should be just to the right of this picture. And so yeah, this is where you would pop out. And I think the university is maybe 10 minutes away from this, because this is right by the city center. And yeah, other than that, what we were just saying, really, really easy. Public transport's all down, really well organized, buses all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get something called an NS Flex card.
Yeah.
And what that is, you pay €5 a month subscription, and then you get 40% off all your trips on the weekends and off-peak hours. And off-peak hours are actually most of the day. So I take advantage of that quite a lot. Must-see places in the Netherlands. It is cliche, but Amsterdam is worth visiting.
Yeah.
But Utrecht is great as well, particularly. What else?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite.
Really?
Other than Nijmegen, of course, loyalty,
But yeah, in general, as we said, it's very easy to travel around between Dutch cities. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. And general tips, what would you go for here?
I traveled very, very light. I quite like collecting books, so I had to restrict myself to 5 books that I traveled with. Stuff those in. I can at least say, don't try and pack light, because of course you have to pay extra if you go over certain bag limits. And there's nothing that you can't get in the Netherlands by post the next day. So don't worry about bringing too much stuff over, I'd say. Yeah.
100%. I also I have some family in the Netherlands, and I remember when I first got to the Netherlands, they were like, "Oh, how could you pack so little?" I had like all of my stuff in like one suitcase, and I still don't even think I met the weight category. But I guess it's just person dependent. But yeah, I wouldn't pack too heavy. I would maybe recommend taking a smaller bag as well, like as addition, so if you want to travel around. But other than that, yeah, there's not much else. People to turn to for help. the university is really got a really good support structure in place, that if you would ever need help with anything or you need tips or advice, they're very good and they're really fast at getting back to you from my experiences. And yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I just want to add, what was nice about Radboud is that when you arrived at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, they had people from the university waiting to meet you there.
With a SIM card as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, with the SIM card, and they helped you buy a train ticket, put you on the train to Nijmegen, picked you up with a bus, took you to Radboud.
Gave you a nice red hoodie as well. That was all cool.
Yeah.
Very welcoming. And how to meet people, just that last tip here. That is quite hard now during Corona times, but for us it was quite easy. But I think there's a slide about Corona now, so we'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, well, I think that link is just all university related information about how your studies would be affected and the general restrictions for international students, for instance. Yeah.
It's all so easy during Corona times. Like everything is online. There's support for everything. All the classes, the Zoom things are all recorded. Like really it is. Yeah, they did quite a good job. And then so application. Do you want to talk about that?
I think it's worth mentioning that the way that applications work in the Netherlands is, say you apply to more than multiple universities, every single application goes through that website called StudyLink. Everything happens there. And I believe, could you make the next box come up on the screen? I believe there's on the presentation. Yeah. It's good to know in general that, and it seems odd, scholarship applications are always earlier, have deadlines earlier than the general university application. So never take the university application as the scholarship application. But all the faculty specific Radboud websites have sections regarding what scholarships are available for you, so you should check that out. For South African students, there's available to you something called the Orange Tulip Scholarship. Specifically, I got that one, and then some faculties also have faculty specific scholarships, but you'll just have to look at your specific faculty options.
So just to reiterate what you said, that one website called StudyLink, you can almost do everything through there, and you fill out all the information you need to fill out, and then the uploading the documents to Cyrus, I think you'll have to upload like it's your TOEFL test and that you like proficient in English and all of those things would be through Cyrus, unless you can get your university to say that what your degree was in English, or there are various ways around it, but it will all be explained on that website. It's really quite easy.
Yeah, I will say in terms of application process, I didn't have any questions I really needed to email specifically about. Everything is very clear.
It's almost step by step, like really.
Yeah, you shouldn't stress much about the admin side. It's all right.
Just about the deadlines, of course.
Yes. Okay, and then there's just some final contact information. And I hope we've told you enough that you don't have a massive amount of questions, and we are happy to answer any specific question.
Yeah.
Well, we've got quite a few questions for you both. So I first wanted to say thank you to both of you for your presentation, and firstly for giving us a bit of insights from a student's perspective. And I think all three of us who've gone through the international student sort of experience, or the two of you currently going through it, I'm a little bit on the older end of that section. I wanted to have a couple of questions for you that I think would be helpful to people listening onto this. So Global, we help students, we facilitate the whole process for them to go and study abroad. We look after the application, we'll help them with accommodation and things like that. But when you get onto campus, this is where I feel that students, and myself included, didn't really take advantage of the support systems. And you mentioned it briefly during your slides. Could you go a little bit more in case of like looking for a job or looking for work employment, whether it's after your studies? What type of support is there at Radboud? And if you could just explain that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, sure.
All right, sure.
Okay, do you want to go? No, you go. You go.
I love the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I think as it pops into my head, I'll answer the work-related question first. It's important to bear in mind, and I had this experience, it is quite difficult to get a job in the Netherlands as an international student if that job is outside the university. The reason for that is you need to have a work permit in order to work in the Netherlands as an international student. And that work permit can take at least a month to be received from the government. And for instance, maybe you just want a job like being a waiter at a restaurant. Often they don't want to wait a month for you to receive your work permit. So I would advise, if you need extra income, to look at the options that are at the university, because the university has an office that deals with student jobs, and they help you with your work permits and all that sort of thing. And every faculty has a sort of notice board of student-related jobs that you should check periodically, for instance, at the beginning of each quarter, to see what is available. Yeah,
of course. And there's also, like, while you're at university, if I don't know if that was the question exactly, but while you're at university, there are all the student professor jobs, like the student assistant jobs and all of that you could apply for. And I had a couple of mates that were doing like inventory checks at like supermarkets and stuff like that, and it pays really well, for a student salary at least. And then life after university, they do have a whole support structure at place in the university where you sign up. And I think in my first few weeks there, that they, like, when they were going through introductions and everything, they set it all up, and they set up a profile for you, and then it's like they almost hook you up with like prospective jobs in your line of work and your field. And I think I did set up a profile in that career services department, but I haven't yet thought that far. I don't think, but yeah. But there is definitely support for that.
Maybe something to add that has nothing to do with work, just the life of being a student. Every faculty has what's called a student information point that you can go to at any time, or email with study-related questions. They're very helpful in that regard. And there's also something called a student advisor that you can contact and have meetings with at any point. Say you're unsure about how some course might fit into your larger study plan, or if you're even really overworked and you're struggling to deal with it, you can contact the student advisor.
Yeah, so I even just about student advisors, I had some stuff, some personal stuff happen, and I had to go back to South Africa for a little bit during my studies. And my student advisor was so helpful. She literally helped me through almost everything, down to like emailing the different professors and all of that stuff. So in terms of support, I really wouldn't worry about whether it be while you're a student at the university or even thereafter. Like, they will look after you, and they almost do try to promote, because I mean, they're investing in you'd be investing in your education, but they would want to almost ensure that you could stay there and work, because it's something that you've invested your time and your effort into, you know. So
yeah, well said, guys, well said. Got a couple of questions here for you. In terms of the fees, and I know that you guys are on the recruiting side of it, and so generally with the fees are very, like, between courses and that, did you guys find that they were reasonable in terms of when you were looking at other institutions? How did you find the fees in terms of, you know, what you were looking for and being able to actually afford to study overseas as well?
I found, perhaps I can first, I should say this, university fees in the Netherlands are incredibly high for international students, remarkably higher than, for instance, for Dutch students. So one of my when I was trying to make applications, what I chose on the basis of was the scholarships that are available specifically. And I found that Radboud had the most available scholarships that would cover living fees and studying fees. So you will largely have to take advantage of, if you're looking at universities, look at the best scope of scholarships, because the fees are incredibly high.
So I would almost kind of disagree with that, because when I was doing my research based on where I was going to study, I thought like comparatively, if we're looking internationally, definitely like the UK, I looked at America, all of those were like way more expensive than about the Netherlands, because I think Europe in general has almost identical pricing for universities. They have like a somewhat of like a standard that they keep about. So I definitely went towards more Europe. Britain was the UK was very different, and from my research, I was even also going to look at going to America, but that was like almost unaffordable. So America and the UK were like boxes I couldn't tick, and then I was just like, what's next? And then I went Europe, and then I thought that it really wasn't that bad, because internationally, what is it now for a master's? I think it's 10,000. 10,000 a year, and then the Dutch students pay 2,000 a year. So if you have or Dutch or European, if you have a Dutch or European passport as well, you can definitely make use of that.
Yeah. So I should rephrase. I agree with you that the Netherlands is well priced on the global scale, but if you think about sort of exchange rates, and it's a massive.
Of course.
But the Orange Tulip Scholarship, which is available to all students from Southern Africa, for instance, how that scholarship works is it lowers your fees from the international student fee down to what the Dutch students pay. So that's helpful.
Is that on a basis, or is that on a per case basis? So you have to apply, certain grades have to be met, and you can't apply within your first year. It's after your first year when you can apply for it, right? Or can you apply straight away?
You can, for the Orange Tulip Scholarship, is a scholarship that you are automatically entered into on the basis of having applied to the university. There are a number of scholarships that work that way. So it's just important, again, with discipline and faculty relevant scholarships to see which scholarships are in a sense automatic and which scholarships you'll have to deal with by yourself. But the Orange Tulip Scholarship is automatic. There's also something called the Radboud Scholarship that also lowers your fees. And then
great. I'm great that you both said that as well, because it's kind of like testing your knowledge for university, and we'd love to see that. So the people that have asked about fees and the discounts and the tuition structure, please email at info@globaleducation.co.za, and we'll answer those questions specifically for you. In terms of Radboud offering medicine, they've got some biomedical courses depending on the undergrad and the master's course as well. So there's no name on this question here, so I'm going to say anonymous attendee, please email me, and we'll answer those questions as well for you.
I will add that, the university hospital at Radboud is very famous in the Netherlands. It's a particularly good place to study medicine.
Yeah, very good point. So the biomedical course as well is one of Europe's best as well, which I found fascinating, especially with COVID, and in light of what's happening now. It's something that we should all be taking more interest in now. So definitely for medical students, that's something to go into.
If I could just answer one of those questions quick, just while I was scrolling the thing. I don't mean to take away from you or anything, but there was that one question where it was like, do you recommend doing a first degree in essay and honors/masters there? I feel like that's I could really do a good job in answering that. So Jason and I are completely different. So Jason did his undergrad and his honors in South Africa. So then that qualified him to do his master's straight away. I didn't. I just did my pure undergrad. I finished my BCom in econometrics at Tux, and I applied for my master's, but I was rejected, and I was like, oh, why? And it was because it was only a 3-year degree, so I needed like almost a 4-year qualification. So that would have been my honors year. But then they were like, oh no, we'll accept you, but then you get accepted into a year called a pre-masters, which is like, I would describe it as almost equivalent to doing like an honors, but it's like a final years of bachelor's, but then it's like a bridging course to your master's. So I did that. I found the year very easy, and it was quite nice to have almost a bit of a break from like really intensive studies. And I did have to do a thesis. I'm like, it's different on the years. Sorry, on what you study, but I had to do a thesis in that year. So that pre-masters was like the bridge, and I was more than happy to do that because I could almost come overseas a year sooner. And yeah, that's just the difference of the two. So it's up to you, but I do think that you do 100% need to have done an undergrad in South Africa or Zimbabwe or wherever it is you're coming from, because my younger sister is also just finished and she's looking at coming overseas. So she just finished high school, and they won't accept you unless you've done, I think, a year at university, and then you could only bridge to doing like an undergrad overseas. But yeah,
it depends what you're going to study and where.
Of course, it depends. But like she may also be, it's case by case. So yeah.
Send her our way. We would love to have a chat with her.
100%. Will do. Will do.
Please.
Sure.
Just in terms of the pre for most of the South Africans and Zimbabweans on here, if you're doing a 3-year degree anywhere in Europe or in the UK, and you want to do your master's, you have to do a pre-master's first. That's the standard across most universities because of the expansion in terms of the coursework. So your honors degree in South Africa will get you straight into master's without having to do that pre-master's. So Nicholas is very correct with what he just said there as well. Got a couple more questions for you guys. Okay, I got one here from the team here. What's happening for you? I think, Jason, you're in the Netherlands.
Yes.
In terms of the pandemic with COVID, how have you found that support? And have you, most of your classes moved online, or are you back in class now? What's kind of the go right now?
All right, so at the beginning of the lockdowns, what happened is that the university tried as much as possible to have what they called hybrid learning. So they would sort of toggle the classes in terms of how much in-person classes you could have, but that was mainly for undergraduate classes. So you would have, say, half your classes in person and half online. But you could always, if there was an in-person class, you could still attend it online. Cameras are always set up. If you're doing postgraduate studies, unfortunately, all postgraduate studies have been kept online. But I have found the online shift to the Radboud, I found that they've handled it very well. I didn't experience any lack of content or quality in that sense. I mean, it doesn't matter what university you're at, it is going to be difficult to stare at a screen for a few hours instead of being in person. But the professors have generally made themselves very easily available via email. At the moment, we're under complete lockdown, so absolutely everything for the next quarter will be online. But as I said, the online is well structured, so even though it's not great to stare at a computer screen for many hours, it is manageable. Yeah.
And have you found studying online has hindered your course at all? Has hindered your aspirations of completing your degree? Have you found that it was kind of holding you back, or did you find that it's kind of giving you an opening to kind of explore different things or different way of learning?
Okay, I can't say that it has hindered me in any way, but that to a large degree has to do with the fact that I'm doing a research master's. Research meaning it's very heavily based on the research that I do by myself, and I write massive research papers at the end of each course. But one sort of benefit of things being online is that it gives you access to, for instance, a whole load of conference attending that you wouldn't be able to ordinarily across Europe. So about a month ago, I attended virtually a conference in Switzerland in the morning, and then a conference in the Netherlands in the afternoon. So in that sense, there are benefits to everything being online.
Yeah, I've kind of really loved it, the whole online learning. It's the whole mentality of like waking up 5 minutes before your class, turning your computer on and you're there. It cuts out for me a lot of the traveling and a lot of the being rained on and all of that stuff. So I don't feel like there was any drawbacks to the content we were learning. We were doing the exact same stuff. It was just all done online, very seamless and easy. All of the tests are quite crazy how they proctored, but I guess that's a really good thing, because no one wants to have a degree or finish their degree and be like, oh, it was during the corona years, and question the credibility of it. So I think what they did with monitoring your computer, monitoring the workspace during the exam environment, it almost felt like I was on campus writing exams. So yeah, other than that, I thought that was all really, really well done and really well organized. And
yeah, brilliant. I think we could keep going with this conversation here, but we were speaking at the beginning of before the webinar started, and you both were telling me sort of your backgrounds and sort of your own experiences in that. Do you what would you tell a student that was coming to Radboud? What would you tell them to be wary of? I know everyone gets kind of off when I ask these questions, but I think they're great for people to be aware of. So don't answer if you don't feel comfortable
to be wary of. This isn't when I say to be wary of this, I don't mean, this is not Radboud specific. It's perhaps not Netherlands specific. It might be Europe specific. coming from a background in South Africa and Zimbabwe, I think we're very attuned to very imminent political and social issues. And in the Netherlands specifically, it's a very wealthy country and people live in quite a bubble. So sometimes it can be a bit off-putting how, to a certain extent, naive people are very political and directly impactful issues that are still occurring in the places that we come to. So I would say be wary of that naivety to a certain extent and don't be offended by it, but it's good to try and burst their bubbles to a certain extent. Yeah. I mean, I like telling the story. I find it quite funny. For instance, I have been asked a few times by Dutch people when they ask, where are you from? And I say South Africa. They go, oh, well, why are you white? And then I say something, oh, well, you know, colonialism, that little thing that happened. So that's just an example of the kind of bubble they live in.
What I've also got multiple times is they'll be like, oh, so where are you from? And I'm like, yeah, I'm from South Africa. And they're like, oh, do you know my friend from Kenya? And I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. You know, like, I don't know, that's just kind of short-sighted, and it seems so far-fetched for them, you know, like Africa is always, even growing up, like you said, it's the whole cultural thing. And so yeah, that would just be the thing that I would also be wary of. But I think you put it really well there. I don't know. It is a very, very tricky question. And yeah.
I think for me, being somebody that helps students study overseas, I think the biggest thing for me is understanding how liberal the Dutch and the Netherlands are.
I mean, they are so accepting. Yeah.
Compared to what we're used to in South Africa and Zimbabwe. I've got another question for you here, and this is something I think you guys will answer relatively quickly. Is the town safe, and is the university as well safe?
Oh, so safe, like almost ridiculous. Yeah. It was actually really weird first moving to Nijmegen, being able to just walk around at or walk home at 2 a.m. and not even worry about anything. Like it's ridiculous how safe it is.
Yeah, it's very safe. One, as you say, don't have to worry about because I'm sure it's been mentioned, cycling home at any hour of the night, somewhat inebriated and wobbling a bit down the bicycle lane, you'll be fine at 3 a.m. Yeah, fine.
Be wary with that, because I did get hit by a car, but other than that, I'm pretty much the only person I know or have ever spoken to that's been hit by a car in the Netherlands. So other than that, I think you're good.
Well, maybe this is a sort of side comment on bicycle safety. What's very nice about the Netherlands is that, and I find it quite amusing, in some places in the city here in Nijmegen, the bicycle lanes are as wide as the lanes for the cars.
Oh yeah, you're almost above the law on a bicycle, which is great, and it's so safe.
Yeah, so it's really nice to cycle through the city here. It's very safe. Yeah.
I got a specific question, so I'm not sure you two will be able to answer it. Does the university offer a criminology social work degree? And if so, do you think a career in that is worth doing in Europe? Personally, I think if you're in criminology or social work, you've got, a great job or lifestyle ahead of you. If you just look at the mental issues around the world, we're going through a pandemic, there's less people networking around, so you're losing that human interaction. I think from the social work, definitely. In terms of criminology, I think just the nature of being humans as well, I think you're always going to have that career aspect for it as well. Do you two boys know about criminology at Radboud? I think they do offer a course, if I'm mistaken.
Does criminology fall under psychology, or would that be the broader umbrella of that field? Because I don't know if I've ever heard of criminology itself, but I guess that's my answer.
I'm sure Radboud has a criminology degree, but I have not read up on the specifics of the courses offered, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, anonymous attendee, I'm going to call you the AA name of the group. Send us your contact details and we'll gladly get in touch with you and give you a full explanation on those questions as well. I have one more question for you two. When's the next time you're coming back home for a holiday?
I am planning to come back in August, if I can, given well, we all like to hope that then the world will be a slightly brighter place in the summer. But yeah, I will come back to South Africa because I will finish my research master's in July, and then I hope to get a PhD position in September, and I'll come home in between.
I don't think I'm coming home for quite a while. I'm quite happy where I am right now, and I always tell my family, I'm like, yeah, come visit me here. It's a better reason to come travel. But other than that, would be my answer.
I was going to have a look at some of the other questions here. We've answered most of the questions here. So I'm going to say thank you to the two of you. It was enlightening, and for me personally to know that there's two youngsters in this world that are thinking differently as well in this interesting times that we live. So I think the world will definitely be a brighter place. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers. How do I end this?
All right, everybody, would like to just say thank you from Global Education. Please reach out to us, and I'll put the contact details on my screen here just while we wait for everybody to close down. So just contact info@Global Education, and by all means, we'll see you soon.
Cool. Thanks so much. Cheers.